everybody. Welcome back to Virtual Equity. Today is episode 7, and we are calling it Funneling and Follow Up. So, today we're going to talk about your funnels and the importance of your follow up process when it comes to recruiting. And Nicole's going to talk a little bit about why it's so important for you to have these things.
Hi. I love that we're matching. Uh, unintentionally, right?
Right.
So I really we've used funnels now for several months, and I feel like um, our team definitely feels when we're not using a funnel. So I think it's definitely been a huge help for us. I think one of the main things that you can use the funnel for is if you're a small business, right? Um, I think it's a great way to create brand awareness and be able to interact with candidates and be able to interact with them quickly from the minute that they get that first text message or phone call or email from your organization or from you as a recruiter. It opens up a conversation and it opens up the interaction with them as to what value are you creating for that candidate, right? And the opportunity to start creating your brand as a recruiter, to get them to engage. So I think it's a great way to bring people, I guess, the knowledge of what you're trying to provide, and also in kind of a pre and post hiring process, right? You can use funnels for different parts of your hiring process, for engagement, even post, right? Employment for us, typically it's 13-week contracts. So it's a great way to keep engaged those people that maybe took that one assignment with you and kind of went somewhere else, but also a great way to re-engage them. They're like, hey, I'm still here. Where are you at? Where are we going to go next? Type of thing. So I love that we've really kind of enforced using a funnel and having multiple touch points because it allows us to, I think, to really get the communication going.
So I find I'm gonna take us back just a little bit. So I love what you said, and I'm just like reflecting back on the last couple of years. And I know last episode we talked about going from COVID to post-COVID in the industry and the struggles and like just kind of how the recruiting was one way and kind of flipped to another way, right? So I won't go back into that all, but I truly think that funnel follow-up like focus that we did for this last year like really made a difference for us and our team. And I'm just laughing in my head because there were plenty of people that were in the team that didn't want to do that, didn't see the value in that, and not currently on the team. All the team values it, right? Like everybody values it on our team right now. But like I just like sat and I was like thinking back about that when we were talking. Um, I wanted to like talk about some of the things or like I guess like um what brought us to like really focus on follow up and funnels this past year. And so I want to say like if you're currently struggling where you're like sending out a bunch of messages, you're not getting a lot of responses, like those sorts of things. This is what we're about to tell you is exactly what's going to change everything that you're doing. I know we all know that sales requires follow up. I know we all know that sales requires knowing your funnel, but like most people don't understand what that means, right? And even though we had some follow up processes and we had some bundling processes, I feel like as a team, we sat down and we're like, what is working? What is not? And how do we make this better? And then you and I showed them and the rest of the team like through data. Like we were able to feed them the data. So they made a change and we showed them the outcomes. They made more changes and we showed more outcomes. And I think that just helped all of us really like hone in that follow up and touch points and funnel skills that we've been practicing and pushing. And one of the I'm gonna go into my detail piece of this because Nicole and I were kind of going over our notes, but I have some very strong detail information. So when we were first working through this, we would hear a lot like oh, I keep accidentally messaging the same people, or like nobody is getting back to me, or I can't find anybody who's looking. And so, like, we have a smaller team and a large database that we had to go through. And like I said last time, our leads had been flooded with people that had moved out of our industry, but our database still reflects them in the industry. And we had to get through a bunch of no's to get to our yeses. And so research, I say that word so funny. Research shows that it takes 8 to 12 touch points to get a response when you're doing sales. And so I remember you and I sitting down and being like, okay, what can we do to get 8 to 12 touch points in the process that we're using? Um, and we tested it, right. We started doing touch points. So I don't know, Nicole, should I let you go into what we're doing for touch points, or should I just kind of continue with my thought process?
Yeah, I think yeah, you're definitely a lot better at the detail. I'm like, this is what we did. I think honestly, it's a strategy, right? And so what we did, and just kind of looked at it, it's how can we combine our analytical brain and our like customer service type outreach, like recruiting. And I think we're past the stage where just one phone call is going to get you, I think you have to be very lucky in order to be like, yep, that person picked up on the first ring and we had an engaging conversation and they immediately wanted to do whatever I asked them to do, right? So I think that what we did was kind of look at what do we want? What is our end goal, right? And then create a funnel that was targeted towards the specific audience because you do have to be able to personalize your funnel. So not all of them may have the same touch points and not all of them may have the same length of time. Um, but I think you were really good at also strategizing in that way. It's like, what and when and how often are we sending out information?
Yeah, let so Nicole and I'll explain a little bit. When we were structuring our funnels and our follow-ups for our industry, when we're doing travel staffing, which is definitely different than perm staffing, in travel, everything opens and closes quickly. Your lead to application process, it needs to be honestly 7 days ago. Um, anything over 7 days and you're just like, well, you're moving too slow in this industry. It just doesn't work. So we have a lot of speed up to slow down kind of process, push and pull. Makes it really hard to figure out how to leverage customer service, how to leverage building relationships in a very, very short amount of time and still keep things going because things will open in the morning, then close by the afternoon. Like it is that fast pace. And so I feel like when we took on this project and we were talking to the team and we're working through it, there were some very, very key things that we had to do. We had to start by figuring out, like you said, what is our goal? Like with this funnel, what is the process? Are we wanting to get them to submit? Are we wanting to get an application? Are we wanting them to just answer us and let us know, which was a big one? Are you still traveling? That one was a huge one. Like, are you still traveling? So we even knew if they were a viable lead anymore. We had to make sure that we tested it for our industry to ensure that we were not going too slow or too fast. We had to figure out what touch points. And that was something when you said touch points, I was like, maybe we should define what touch points are. So when we're referring to touch points, we are talking about the phone call, the voicemail, the text message, the email, the letter, the gift, whatever it is that you're doing,
Social
whenever
media.
you're right. Any outreach should have a full blown plan, a follow up process to that one touch point you made, and a time frame in which you're going to do it. Like those are when we write our funnels, when we write our follow ups, that's what it is. It's like, what do we want to do? How many touch points are we expecting to have at this? What are those touch points going to look like? And in what order are we going to do those things, right? That's how we built everything. We started with it takes 8 to 12 touch points to get a response. And we started building, I think, what was it, 14-day touch point follow up funnels. So we'd have a follow up funnel. It was 14 days. Not every day had a touch point. There were rest days in between, but there was like you're gonna call, leave a voicemail, send a text, and then you're going to maybe call the next day and email 2 days after that. But I think the biggest key to building the funnel that we have really honed in on, this is random, I guess, the key to all of this is connecting the touch points. I think that was a huge struggle at first, for anybody like new to implementing a follow up or touch points or anything. Like it's making sure you're connecting everything. And in our industry, the big push lately is automate, automate, automate. And Nicole is definitely don't automate. She's like, I want physical conversations. I want you to be picking up the phone. Like, and it's very important. We have seen how important that is. Like, she is 100% correct. And so, my job and her job was to say, okay, how can we leverage our automation to make us better at having conversations, right? And so we had to work around making those touch points work, right? Because we would find that our team did what's called blasts, right? And they were sending out 200 messages and then that was it. There was no follow up phone call. There was no email, no additional text message. Did you see my text message? Right? It was like one text message, and then they only took over who responded, which is a terrible follow up process. If you have that follow up process, please change that immediately. That's not going to get you what you want. You need to follow up with the people who are not responding because it takes 3 to 4 in our industry, 8 to 10 on average, to get a response to even work that lead. I think that was the biggest thing that we like the biggest hurdle we had to get over, right? Was like the touch points aren't meant so that you can immediately place those people. The touch points are meant so that you can have the conversations with the people, right? Like, do you agree with that? That was like our biggest thing we
Yeah,
had to like get through.
it's funny when I'm a very visual person, so as you're talking about the blast, I don't know, I'm not I don't even fish, but in my mind I just saw someone just casting a net out from a boat and being like, let's see what I catch with this, right? But I do think that that's kind of what it I think with blasts and just with random messaging, you're just kind of throwing out information out there, potentially not really good information, and you're seeing what you get, right? Like if you're lucky, versus having a strategy in place that hey, at least I will have the consistency, right? And so I think 14 touch points to some people will probably sound very aggressive. And I know that I think for our team, it felt a little bit aggressive. And um, as a recruiter, I think there has to be that balance between being aggressive, but not being so in your face and annoying that you will turn off a candidate immediately, right? They'll be like, you're terrible and you consistently call me. I don't want to talk to you. So that's why it's so important to structure your funnel in a way that you do have those rest periods, right? But because the industry moves so quickly, you also have to provide value quickly. So you have to give them that information that really, it's like that one phone call probably isn't going to do much. The follow-up text message, you might get their attention, right? In terms of like this person texted me, hey, I'm not available right now. I'll talk to you later. Hey, okay, cool. I sent you a quick email with some information, right? So what value are you adding within your touch point, within your phone call? And I think that that's really going to be the key is what information are you putting into those messages that are going to get the attention of someone that maybe they looked at their phone really quick while they were going to the bathroom and they're like, that was a funny text message. I want to get back and talk to that person, eventually. But I think the goal of this, and at least the way I see it, is you're engaging them. You're not being annoying. You're not being in their face. And at the end of the day, we know that if we want to get somewhere with a candidate, we have to be able to be persistent. So it's a way for you to be persistent, but at the same time, create value in the communication that you're having with the candidate. So that's I think going to be the key is what information do you want to get out there and how are you getting it out there, right?
Yeah, for us, well, and maybe I'll have you say what you think, but like for us, adding value can be multiple things, right? Like our team adds value on to travelers in a like a variety of ways, right? Again, they have to look at their audience, like them talking to their bench and their desk and people they talk to all the time. That looks different. That value looks different than maybe some new leads or maybe some of these guys they talk to that are coming out of school or just kind of gathering information, right? Like, again, you have to know your audience and know what value is going to be needed for those audiences. And sometimes the value that we add is like, hey, we found a coupon. We found a coupon for you. Here is some information on how to use that coupon. Sometimes the value is like, hey, we knew you wanted, the state of Missouri, and I have these three facilities that actually are like in dire need, and they kind of make what you're looking for. Do you want more information? Like, are you available to talk about it? That's adding value. Like, you wanted these things, I have that, you wanted those things. Sometimes it's as simple as like birthday outreaches, right? Or new grandbaby outreaches, or we had whatever the case may be. Sometimes, like, we had the hurricane. So Nicole and I are both located in Florida. In the last hurricane that we had, we realized so neither of us have really good service. Like, if the internet is out, that's it. We do not have cell service. Like, it's a no-go. And so right before the hurricane hit, I got information on how to leverage satellite to be able to send text messages. And so we sent out some emails to everybody to talk about that and to check in and make sure that they were safe and to see if there was anything that they needed to prepare for the hurricane. And so we leveraged knowledge to just get people talking to us, checking in, seeing if they're safe, seeing those who we knew had family there. Like, we checked in with those guys. So like your value, what you think might sound silly as value, you'd be surprised what others need. We use like the snow. Like, we have information for nurses on like how to prep for snow, how to set up emergency contacts in their phone, what to do if they get stranded, who they can call within our own organization so that we can help them. Like, we share that information. That's knowledge we're adding to people. We even tell people, like, you're not on contract, but if something happens, like, we have services that we can at least call somebody to help you. Like, you're never stranded, you're never alone. And so it's like you got to think about, just when we say value, it doesn't mean like that you have to be like, oh, here's free money or here's something, or like this is the money you wanted. Like, value can be more than just money. It can be time, it can be conversation, it can be an interest that they have. I don't know, Nicole, do you have any like other suggestions on like how to add value like as a recruiter when you're messaging or
Yeah, I think content calendars are also really good. You can pre-schedule. Like, so I'm not against automation. I
I
just
know.
think that automation,
She
just
only
want to
wants
put
you to
that
use
out there.
she's automation is meant to help you, not to stop
Right.
you from being able to do your
I
job.
I think automation should enhance your recruitment, not not do the job for you, right? Like, as a recruiter, you still have to be able to pick up the phone and have a conversation with people. Like, there's I love the people aspect of it, and I think that that's the main goal. And so yeah, that but automation, I can definitely see a content calendar, right? So you can schedule, maybe you have a funnel for your pending, candidates. You have some for your prospect, you have some for your active. So um when I think of travelers, I think people that are busy, that are working long hours. They don't have time to look up information. So you can send licensing tips, you can send housing information. Sometimes our travelers, we had one last week that got to the location they were at, and it was a disaster. So they reached out. Who do they reach out to? They reach out to the recruiter, but does your traveler know they can reach out to you about those things? Do they know that you're there to support them? If you're someone who's now used to using automation and having a virtual like recruiter who, is not a human, I feel like you may not know, like, hey, I can reach out to the robot and have them find me alternate housing. Um, Contract information. I think with the industry going through the ups and downs and then stabilizing, I think it was also a really good way to send out information like, hey, this is what we're seeing. The rates that you were seeing at this point we're not seeing them right now, right? And so it was a good way to get out information and kind of set expectations, and not just that this is coming from me, but hey, as a whole, this is what the industry is saying. It's a good way to send out reviews. Look, this is what people are saying about me. This is what people experience when I am able to find them a contract. So there's a lot of different ways that I think the biggest value is going to come from knowledge, the knowledge that you can give to that traveler who's busy running around or when they're on vacation. I mean, how many times don't we like try and contact them and it's like, I'm in the middle of the mountains hiking in like Spain or something. Like, I didn't even know that. Okay, cool. It's like, cool. I shot you an email with the information. Take a look at it when you're resting out in like your villa or something, right? So it's like, um, yeah, it doesn't always have to be money. It doesn't always have to be like a giveaway or something like that. It can be useful tips that are going to help them, even if it's not with you. I think they'll remember that, hey, I remember this recruiter gave me this information. Let me check back with them or send them a referral.
Yeah, I do not remember who I saw heard the quote from, but it was a podcast I was listening to called Entrepreneurially Thinking. And on there, one of the I think it was one of the hosts, she was like, the more dependable you become, the more dependent or the more dependable you are, the more dependent they become, right? Like the more you're showing up and constantly there when someone needs you, the more they're going to turn to you when they need something. And I think that that is definitely something that we have discussed over and over again with our team.
So I think overall, we know that if you create that dependability, right, a great way to do it is going to be through the follow-up process. It's going to allow you to have that accountability, not just with the candidate, but with yourself. You're maintaining the process you're trying, right? And then after it's like you create also a trust with them. I think that's the main thing to take away. And it's, I think a lot of times we think of a funnel, we think, God, it's annoying. We only think cold calling. But I really think this industry has changed in a way that you need to have multiple different touch points. You need to create that dependability, that accountability, and that trust with candidates so they come back to you time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you're creating a funnel and when you're doing sales and things like that, like if you're adding value, then how can you feel bad about contacting people, right? Like if you truly come from a place of like, I'm giving you some information, like it's very important that you know this and that we talk about it or whatever the case may be. Like when you're adding that value, it's not sleazy to then be like, I want to give you more information. I want to talk to you. Which is kind of funny because that's going to bring me to my next thing. So, we talk a lot about like what is the end goal. And so, depending on what our goal is, sometimes our touch points can be aggressive, right? Like we have some aggressive funnels and we have some non-aggressive funnels. And depending on how and what our goal is, sometimes we need them to be aggressive. For example, and I don't mean mean. Aggressive is not mean. I just mean like consistent follow up, right? Like consistently to get that yes or no. For example, when we had thousands and thousands of candidates that we had to get through on a short amount of, recruiters, and our recruiters, like this is their livelihood as much as we're trying to also find jobs for other people, right? So like everybody has a common goal. We need to all be able to do our jobs, right? And so they were like, we are getting bogged down with just constantly trying to get answers on if people are still in the industry. Like, are these all these, 5, 6, 7,000 leads that we have? Are they good? Are they bad? Like, how do we get through these? And so we took a pretty aggressive approach to get through those, right? And I had some people be like, some people outside in like the company be like, oh, that seems really, really aggressive. And it was like, but it's not. I don't want to keep following up with travelers and candidates who don't want the information. Like, that's not nice for me to just hound somebody over and over when they're like, I'm not even interested, right? So the goal was to get are you interested or are you not? And either way, we're okay with, right? And so the communication itself was not aggressive, just the tactic to get there was aggressive. So that might look like a phone call and a voicemail. And the next day, a text message that's like, hey, I left you a voicemail. I haven't heard back from you. I just wanted to see if you're still interested in traveling. And then it might be an email that has some information about some open positions and like, hey, I tried to get a hold of you earlier this week. I know that you're busy. I wanted to shoot over a couple of options. Let me know if you're still interested. Either way, right? And then it might be another phone call the next day or maybe even the same day. Like, hey, I still hadn't heard back. Before I hop off for the day, I wanted to see if you got my email, if you have any time to discuss this tomorrow. And so we would take that through, right? And sometimes it would be a little aggressive. Like it might be like, I shot you a call in the morning and in the afternoon, like, hey, I haven't heard back. I'm just wanting to wrap up whatever it is. Like, did you get my call? Did you see my email? Did you get my text message? And honestly, we got quite a bit of responses from that. It I feel like really helped us get through quite a bit of candidates. A lot of times it was like, hey, I'm perm. And it's like, great. Thank you so much for letting me know. I'll go ahead and mark that so that I'm not having to reach out to you for opportunities. But if you're ever interested, let me know. Like, here's some referral information. Again, we're always adding value, right? So we always give like we give referral bonuses. If you refer somebody and you don't even work with us, well, like we'll pay you for that, right? So like we always added value. But I feel like we got through being able to be like, these guys are still traveling, these guys are no longer interested really quickly for our team by doing that. And quite frankly, I don't feel like we had a whole lot of negative responses when we took that tactic. Sometimes it was like, hey, I'm busy. Sorry, I haven't gotten a hold of you, right? Like, I can't, and it's funny because we use automation. So we use automation to try to get to the first yes, no response, whatever that first response is. That's where we leverage our automation. Once you respond, we take you out of automation and we work that lead. It doesn't matter if you're telling us not interested. It doesn't matter if you're telling us you're busy. It doesn't matter what you're telling us, right? And so I do want to say that that piece was our automation that worked, and then you took it out of that and you had the conversation. But I feel like we got through a lot of people on that whole like, are you perm, are you not perm? I don't know, what do you think? I know that we've had some other business owners be like, I can't believe you tried that tactic, and we're like, it worked because those people didn't want to be contacted anymore, and so they were thankful that we asked them, are you perm, so that they could be like, yes, I am. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good time management strategy, right? We're because we are smaller and we do have I do believe in a more hands-on approach in terms of candidates, right? But not only that, but you're recruiting, you're trying to get a contract bill, right? You're trying to get someone on assignment, you're trying to help them with stuff. It's a payroll day and you're trying to help some of your travelers with some payroll issues or whatever it may be, right? You're answering questions. It's a good way to have the automation working on the back end. So you're truly responding to the people who have engaged with you. And my thing is, I get that cold calling is terrible, but if you get that phone call, you're right, like you get that text message saying, not right now or not interested. It's a good time to like, now it's not really truly a cold call. You're picking up for someone who has engaged with you, right? And so now you have a direct kind of approach, right? It's like, that's a good number. You know that they're potentially a traveler, they're in healthcare. And at least it's like, okay, I'll just update your information in the system. And like you said, we do have a referral program, or if you know anybody, or when do you think you'll be traveling again? Or is this kind of like, are you done type of thing? And it can lead to a good conversation. So instead of just randomly running reports on the back end, or, I know some people use auto dialers too, but I feel like it's such a great way to kind of have your own automated auto dialer of knowing it's like you already know who's going to pick up, that they've already answered you. And one of the things that we've kind of done is no doesn't necessarily mean no. It just might mean not right now, right? And so it's like when you get that no, okay, well, what does no mean to you? Like, it doesn't mean not right now. It doesn't mean in like 3 months, 6 months. And it's a good way for you to organize your desk. Like, now I know that I need to pick this person back up in 3 months or in 6 months, and reach out again. So that's hard. That's rough to say. Like, no does not mean
Does not
no
mean
in this
no. I
industry.
know.
It's
It's so
okay.
it is so true though. We're like, no is not no. No is I need an actual what does no mean, right? And that's something that we've really worked hard with these follow-ups as well is I don't get to finish just because the traveler said no. It's no, are you interested in the future? No, like, did you relocate? And you're like, by family? Like, it's no means it's a talking point. No is the chance to pick up the phone and start having conversations. And that was really the point to what we do with our outbound funnel automation funnels, I guess we should say. Because like we have inbound funnels. So like if you are an inbound lead, like we take you through a different journey process than we do if we're trying to find out if you want a job or if you're still interested in a certain location or if you're even still in the travel industry. Those are all very, very different funnels. They all have different talking points. They have all different touch points. Um, we're not running you through two funnels simultaneously. You get one funnel at a time, and depending on where you are, you might go into a different funnel later. We're very strict about how and when those funnels are ran, what the funnel conversations look like. And as a team, like we all agree to the rules. Like when Nicole and I first started rolling it out to the team and talking to everybody, it was like they were like, well, I don't know that I like that. And it's like, okay, well, let's try it. Let's get our feedback and then let's tweak it. And then it was very important for Nicole and I to take the feedback that we were receiving and be like, okay, let's tweak it this way. Let's tweak it that way. And I feel like through that process, we've really gotten great funnels that everybody feels comfortable with, right? The team feels comfortable using them. They don't feel like they're being a nuisance. They're feeling like, okay, where am I going to add the value? How I'm going to ask for my wants. That's a big thing we use. Like, ask for your want. Make sure you're asking for what you want from them. Like, it's great to have conversations and you should, but you should always have what you're needing in mind so that you can gear that conversation towards that, especially in travel. Again, you have a very limited amount of time to take your traveler from get to know me to let's keep rolling, right? And you got to be very strategic, but that's part of that is like being open, honest, and having the conversation about what you need to help them move forward, right? Ask for your want. That was definitely something we talked about a lot. But I'll just say, like, it's very important to take your funnels, test your funnels, and tweak them, right? And take back that feedback. And I think that is one of the greatest things that has come out of this process. And our teams feel very confident about. It's so funny because every time Nicole and I go to talk to the team and we're like, what are we doing for this? It's always like, and what is our follow-up plan? And they're like, we got it. We got it. We got the follow-up plan. Don't worry. Like, here's what I did for my follow-up plan. Even something as simple as a blast. Like, we won't let them blast without a follow-up plan. Where's your list? How are you managing? How do you know who you contacted? What is your contact plan? Now we don't have to ask those questions, right? Like they all do those things. But in the beginning, we did have to ask. And that was one of the things, Nicole, I was going to ask you because we get asked this a lot when we're in meetings and when we're talking to people. People ask us, well, like, how did you get your team to do that? Like, what did you do to get your team to do that? I'm struggling to get my team to understand. I'm struggling to get them to do that. I don't know, Nicole, do you want to talk about kind of like what we did to get everybody on the same page about that and kind of like how we got that buy-in from everybody?
I think honestly, the main way is to see the results, right? It's um what are you what were you doing? Was it working for you, right? Because so many times you're just like, I give up. Today has sucked. No one answers me. No one talks to me. Like I'm getting nothing, right? So it's, I think being able to provide, and this is not foolproof, 100%, time you're not going to be like, yeah, like this is, I got a ton of, like some days it'd be like, we got some response. And even if like you sent out, there were maybe 1,000 people, right? Which 1,000 people is we had the team to support that, right? To you're not going to get 1,000 response, but the thing is, what are you doing with the response you are getting? And to me, it was really honing down and kind of looking at this is, I think, also it's kind of segue into looking at quality over quantity because you're like those responses that you are getting are the ones that are going to probably be your quality candidates that you can actually get a placement out of, right? That you can get a profile built that they're talking to. So I think it helps kind of weed through a lot of the noise and a lot of the just you don't know what direction to take sometimes. So I really liked it in terms of it helps you read through the people, it creates consistency. And I think as a recruiting team, sometimes when our industry changes so much, it creates a something that you can that just gives you consistency in your messaging. So honestly, I think for the team was to see the results, right? To be able to say, okay, I'm getting more of a response. And there's been times since where we went through a system change, so maybe our follow-up wasn't the same. We're like, what kind of engagement? "Oh, not as much." Okay, when was the last time we did our funnels? When was the last time that we put people through our messaging? It's been a while. Well, we can see the difference in terms of what kind of response we're getting when we're quiet, right? And I think that that's really been the main thing. And I think it takes what, 3 months or so for a process to kind of really be a process and for you to kind of work out the kinks. And I think we've been using it, and I think it has been great for the team. I've definitely seen a turnaround in terms of just their communication, their confidence, getting that confidence to talk to people again. I think it opens the door for that. I've said it several times. I wasn't here during the middle of COVID, right? So, but I think that because things were so fast and it was just kind of like, here you go, it took away from the conversation that you had to have, right? There wasn't much conversation happening. It was like, do you want to go here? Can you go here? Are you breathing? Cool. Like, let's get you to work. And so now it's like, okay, we're back at it. Like, these funnels create an opportunity to engage, have the conversation, get to know the candidates, which ultimately is going to build that reliability with them. And so I think that has helped our team just to see the results of using the process.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and they'll be the first ones to be like, okay, here's the plan, here's the follow-up plan. Or they'll be like, we haven't heard much, maybe we need to tweak the follow-up. Like they are the first ones to be like, we get it, we get it. But you're right, it did probably take about 3 months of us being like, guys, make sure you have the follow-up plan. What is your plan? But now we don't even have to ask those questions. Like they know, they'll tell us, don't worry, we have the follow-up plan. Here it is. And quite frankly, we don't oversee any of it anymore because they run with it. Um,
I think half of recruiting is building the habits. It's building a good, having good time management, building the habits, things that kind of are ingrained in you and right. And like as things change. And obviously the great thing about building a funnel process is that you can make it whatever you want to make it, right? You can make it a 14-day thing. You can make it a 5-day. Although 5 days, we're not seeing as much engagement unless you add more touch points, right? More, maybe double the phone calls, double the text message in it. So it kind of really depends on what you're looking to do, but you can customize it to whatever you want to do to your style. And a lot of times when I'm thinking about a funnel and I'm thinking about like what touch points, what content, I think about myself. I'm ter- I'm I am probably going to be the one that looks at that phone call, be like, I don't know that number. It's not in my phone book, so I'm not answering it. Why do I have to answer you, right? And I'll be like, I'll be the one that I have an iPhone. So I'll look and I will look, and I do know that I decided not to pick up that call. I'm like, what is the voicemail transcribing, right? So that to me, it's like, so I know I'm going to ignore that first phone call. I don't know your number. What does your voicemail say, right? Like, what are you leaving in that voicemail? Because now most people are reading voicemails, they're not actually listening to them. So you're leaving a voicemail. What is it saying? Is it going to make me want to text you back and be like, what do you want? Or is it going to make me want to pick up the phone and be like, what is it that you want? Or am I going to be like, nope, not interested? So that's where I think the value that you add in the communication is going to make a big difference. Technology and automation have changed how we communicate with people so much. And so it's so much more important now to really put thought into what we're saying and putting out there, because it's going to make the difference. Okay.
look at my bubble. I gave her a thumbs up bubble.
It's going to make a difference into what you're getting out of that process.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I will say, like for me, so we're really big on trying to help the team and not so much anymore, right? Because again, they understand what the process is. But when we were first starting, it was like add yourself in there, talk about yourself, connect with them, use your own voice, right? Like when I communicate in a way that I pretend like I'm talking to my sister. So I will crack jokes in my messages. And some people like that and some people don't. And I get that, right? Like I am not for everybody and I'm totally cool with that. First of all, you have to be okay with who you are, right? Like you have to be okay with who you are. And write in a way that is very authentic to you, or talk in a way, or message in a way, especially when you're using automation, talk in a way that's very authentic to who you are, so that when they do talk to you, it is not that big of a transition. um, I'm a firm believer in that. So when I communicate in my automations, I tend to like make jokes, or I will act like we had a conversation. Like we just had a one-way conversation and I just moved everything along. So those are some of like my pointers when you build funnels. Like make sure that you are authentic, and that when you're connecting your touch points, like make it sound like you're having a conversation. I think that was kind of like a key to everybody being able to flip some of their thought processes. I'm like, make sure it's like you had pretend they answered you the whole time. Like just pretend you talk to them and move the conversation along, because eventually they're going to be like, why do you keep acting like we're having a conversation? What is this person doing? And most of the time they'll be like, what are you doing? Why do you keep messaging me? Okay, let's have the conversation so you can stop acting like we're having the conversation. I don't know. That's like one of my biggest things when you're writing it, is like be authentic, talk about who you are, and respond in a way that is authentic to you. And the way I do that is to pretend I'm talking to my sister because she's my bestie. And so it's like just talking to her. Now it's like I'm talking to Nicole and my sister. Yeah. So, so I just wanted to kind of do a quick wrap up on some of like our tips. So I'll go through my tips first, Nicole, and then you can kind of go up with your tips on it, right? So my tip, if you're going to create a funnel, and a follow-up process, right, is you need to understand what your goal is. Are you selling? Are you marketing? Do you need a yes? Like, what do you need out of this conversation, right? So your touch points need to be based on that. Know your industry. Again, travel touch points are definitely different than if we're placing perm. Those conversations look different. Travelers versus maybe a physician, nurse practitioner, those conversations look different. So you really need to know your industry. Test it in your industry. It usually takes 8 to 12 touch points to get a response. We know, because of our fast pace and the way that we have to move things, if we are looking for a yes, no, we are usually getting those within 3 to 4 touch points, so we can make our follow-up process around those touch points, right? Um, there's not touch points. Remember, touch points, phone calls, emails, I don't know, letters, whatever it is. You want to have multiple touch points and multiple types of touch point. You don't want just phone calls, right? You're trying to get that response, and a phone call is not always going to be the right way to get it. Like Nicole said, like a lot of times the first one goes to voicemail, and we're looking at those transcriptions to see like, do we really want to take those phone calls? It's even better now because you can start the transcription and then answer it. Oh wait, no, actually I'm interested. Just
Yeah.
like I like held it like let's know. Um, but use automation not to carry your recruiting process, but you can leverage it in a way to help you work smarter, not harder, right? So leveraging it to, like Nicole said, pre-schedule things, or maybe to, like for us when we're needing to run through a lot of leads and get responses, we'll have it do the heavy lifting, and then we'll start having the conversations and stuff like that. And just making sure that after you get those touch points going, you're connecting touch points. Everything should be connecting. I should not be asking you about a job, and then the next follow up was like, hey, it's Easter. Happy Easter. And it's like, wait, we haven't talked in 6 months and you're just randomly happy Eastering me. Like make sure there's some connections, make sure that there's in between conversations, stuff like that. In regards to connecting, I think one of the keys with automation, right, is when they respond that first time, flip that to a personal communication and not just a text message. I think it's really hard in the industry because a lot of people want to text, but they actually want phone calls as well, right? So it's like we might have 1, 2 text message exchange and then like, hey, get them on the phone. I think our role is like, please no more than 3 or 4 backs and forths, and then you should have them on the phone, or at least attempting to have them on the phone, because a lot gets lost in text messaging. First of all, it's the easiest thing to ignore. Like I can be engaging and then you said something to me that I don't want to respond and then I'm done, right? Like that's the perfect time to pick up the call and be like, or phone and be like, hey, like whatever you were talking about. So those are definitely like my big tips. Also be authentic. When you're connecting touch points, be authentic. Just be yourself as much as you can. So what are your tips, Nicole?
I think it's the letting go of the one and done type of mentality. It's not going to work anymore. You want to make sure that you're building consistency and you're going to win with the consistency. I think a strong follow process is definitely going to help you build your brand awareness. It's going to get you more engagement. and it's going to get you retention from, your active travelers, or even we have some of our recruiters who don't have never placed a candidate before, and they consistently send them pictures. This is where I am. This is what I'm doing, or I got engaged, and like they do the follow up. So I definitely believe that it's a great way to engage and retain candidates. And then I think last, it's making sure that you are adding that value at every single stage in the process and the funnel, because it's going to, again, keep people engaged, and it's going to build a loyalty towards the knowledge that you're sharing with them, right? Um, I think travelers, like specifically, I've noticed that sometimes they're lonely. They're out there, they're somewhere new. And if they're not exploring or they're not talking like to family, I know that I hear all the time, like, so and so is homesick, or can we send them a care package? Can we do this? And it might seem silly because you're like, how does the funnel help that? Well, it's like you might be sending that message to someone at the right time. Maybe they're sick of the facility they're at and they're like, I hate this. And all of a sudden you pop into their messages and they're like, that was my sign. Let me go work with you. Right. So you never know who that message is reaching and at what point in time it's reaching them. So but I feel like it's a good way to capitalize on it, because you might just be reaching out like a friendly person, making someone laugh with a silly comment, or you might be getting your next contract out of it. You never know, right? So that'd be my takeaways.
I love that. All right, Nicole, that brings us to the recruiter tip of the week.
Cool. What we have been doing this week is focusing on our input. So when I talk about input, I'm talking about, again, what funnel are you using? Are you making the phone calls? Are you doing the emailing? Are you engaging with your candidates, right? Focus on what you're inputting into the process, and allowing you to later be able to reflect on what was the outcome, what was the output of everything that I put in. And then we're going to be able to look back at it and be like, okay, well, this is what I did this week. This was my output from my input. And then be able to kind of come up with a new strategy. Okay, if this didn't work, do I need to add more phone calls? Do I need to add more messaging? Do I need to step back from it? What do I need to do? So I think for us, and I think it would be a good tip for anyone, it's focus on what you're doing to get to your goal. Um, because sometimes we just want to see the result and we're like, well, we're not seeing the submissions, we're not seeing the profiles getting built, we're not seeing the offers. It's like, okay, well, what is it that you were doing to get that, right? And you might see that maybe we were a little lacking in our input to get that, and now we know, hey, this, I need to do something different, I need to step it up a little bit. So that would be my tip.
I love that. All right, you guys, it was great talking to you this week, and we will see you again with our next episode. Bye.
Bye.